I'm beginning to lose my voice, so maybe you'll be lucky and you can just all go home. Or go and have ice cream. Somebody agrees with me. I was a pastor's wife for, 35 years or something like that. Not here, but in other cities also. But let me do a commercial first. We have a website that's called, it's Spiritual Gold. What's it called? Anyway, there's little cards back there if anybody's interested. And you can listen to my husband's messages for the 21 years or so that he was here. And it's all free, so I'm not trying to make any money on it. Anyway, and then there's also some Christian parenting tapes on that might be helpful for you. At least it seemed to have helped Richard and I when we had our kids. Okay, thanks for inviting me, I think. I've long passed my preschool kids' age, but I do have 4 great-grandchildren that are preschoolers. Well, 3 of them are. One of them just started school. She lives in Bolivia. 2 of them live in Bolivia. In fact, I guess I should give a commercial for the women's tea. In April, my granddaughter, Kara, will be coming to speak. She works with women who prostitute in Bolivia, and I'm sure you would really, really enjoy hearing her. So somebody told me to give a commercial for that, so that's what I did. Okay. As I said, I had 4 boys, 12 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren. The grandchildren, there's 1 boy and 3 girls. 2 of the girls live in Bolivia. As you know, I don't have any preschoolers now, but I remember what it was like. Noise, crying, fighting. Maybe your kids don't do this. Toys all over. You're always falling over toys. No matter how much you ask them to pick them up, there's always something around. But a lot of joy, a lot of laughter, and a lot of happiness. I was always ready for bedtime. I don't know if you girls are the same way. Quiet, finally. And then we'd hear a little voice. Dad, Mom, I need a glass of water, please. And so when they add the please, then you let them get their glass of water. Another thing we used to have is, Mom, Dad, I have one more thing. One more thing to tell you, one more thing. And of course you had to hear that one more thing. So that was our oldest that pretty much pulled those tricks. And then he taught his brothers how to do the same thing. There were often times I had to remind myself that children are a gift from the Lord. And that's something that each of us have to remember, right? Some of the things that I'll be suggesting or mentioning are probably things that you've already heard about or you know about or you practice, but maybe there'll be a reminder to you. And if not, then maybe there'll be something that will be new. First of all, I just want to say to relax and enjoy your kids. Laugh with them, play with them, enjoy them. Even though you don't feel like they're a blessing from the Lord, try to enjoy each moment that you have. When things break, unless your house is different than mine, we were always having things that were broken. But remember, things are not permanent. They can always be replaced. And it's not important if something breaks. You should have boundaries, yes, especially when your kids go to somebody else's house and they have all these knickknacks around and you have to say, don't touch. But in general, for your house, have it be an open house, a fun house for the kids. And the other thing, say no as seldom as possible. I would encourage you to just don't say no if you don't have to, because then the no's will mean something. And there are so many things that it doesn't matter what the children do or how they handle certain situations. So try to say no as, see, that child agrees with me. But then help them to learn independence. Yes, see? Independence from you, but more dependent on the Lord. And teach them independence. It's really, really important because your kids are going to go out into the world and they need to know how to handle themselves. Let them choose what they want to wear, what they want to read. Let them make those decisions. They're not that important. And then some of the other things that I would encourage, let me make sure I have all this down here. Enjoy and be glad that each child is different. I don't know if you've noticed that, if you have more than one. Yes, each child is different. They have different interests. We had some that loved Legos, and they were Legos, well, they weren't Legos at that time, it was Tinker Toys. Do they have Tinker Toys at all today? There were Tinker Toys all over the house. So we had some that enjoyed that. Other ones that were scientists, and they liked microscopes and things that had anything to do with science. In fact, that son, that kid, whatever, how old is he? He's in his late 50s, 59. He works at the University of Oklahoma, and he teaches elementary particle physics. And he also goes back and forth to CERN. Does anybody know what CERN is? It's this thing in Switzerland and France. It's underground, 17 miles underground, and they smash atoms together. For what purpose? I have no idea. I don't even think they know why they're doing it. But he does go there 2 or 3 times a year because he loves science. So let your children be different. Let them enjoy different things. And encourage their difference. Then another one is to compliment. Compliment, compliment, compliment. Please do that with your children. Just tell them everything that they do right. In fact, one of my kids finally said to me, "Mom, I know I do everything right. You don't have to keep telling me that." But it's so important because they're going to get bombasted out in the world or away from home or whatever, that they can't do anything right. So please, find anything. Maybe it's the way they brush their teeth. Maybe it's the way they walked across the living room floor. Whatever, find something good in what they do or what they say. Another one of my kids said, "I know I'm your favorite, Mom," because he was the one that, well, all of them, that I would find things that we could compliment them on. Okay, let me see. Another thing is teach them to pray about everything. As maybe some of you aren't really intimate with the Lord, but I would encourage you, if you lose something, we were often on our knees praying to find lost contacts. I don't know how many of your kids have contacts, but our oldest had contacts. He was always losing them. We taught them to pray about friendships, because there's going to be times in your kids' lives when their friends are going to let them down, or their teachers are going to let them down. You know your child is special, but does that teacher know that? So encourage them to pray about everything. I remember when our oldest grandchild came back from Ethiopia, she went over to L.R. Green School. They were living with us, and she was having some rough times with some boys there, making fun of her or whatever they were doing. She never did tell us completely, but we encouraged Kara to pray about everything. And it seemed that over time that the problem stopped, it went away. So teach your children and help them to depend on the Lord. Another thing is to try to live what you're telling the kids, the way you want them to live. Teach and live that, because it's so important. If they see that you're a hypocrite, that you're saying one thing and not doing it, they're going to pick up on that. And they're not going to follow the things that you know are right. Like one thing I can remember, we would tell our kids to eat everything on their plates, but then we didn't, at least take a bite out of everything, but we didn't always do that. So try not to be a hypocrite with the kids. Teach and live what you say you believe. That goes along with being a hypocrite, especially some of the attributes of God. Again, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but God is all-powerful. Teach your children this. God has all knowledge. We can ask the Lord to help us in anything. Some of the schoolwork, as they go to school, teach them that God can help them with that. God loves you no matter what. Show them that you love them no matter what. And then that He's in control of everything. Everything, everything. That just is so encouraging to me as an adult, and especially after my husband died kind of young, to remind myself that God was in control, that He is sovereign, that He has everything under control. Be consistent. Don't say one thing and live another one. Don't do one thing or tell them one thing today and something different tomorrow. Be consistent with the things that you know are important. And then don't insist on perfection. How many moms and dads want their kids to be perfect? Don't insist on perfection. You're not. I hate to tell you that. I'm not. So praise your child. Pick your battles. Be careful with what is important to teach them. Now, these are just some really simple things, and maybe some of the things, like I said, that you've already known. And just enjoy your family. And then to add on, enjoy your husband. He's not perfect. There's no man on this earth that is. Jesus was, but he was never a husband, as far as I know. But enjoy him, honor him, respect him, because your kids are watching. And if you can't find something good about him, ask the Lord to give you some hints, and then watch for them, because it's really, really important to honor and respect your husband. That's all I have. Let's pray, and then if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try and answer them. Lord, I thank you for this opportunity. I thank you for these young women, Lord. I look out and see the potential that you have for each one, for the homes they come from. Lord, I ask that you'll bless them. Help them to seek your face daily, several times a day, as they raise young children to grow, to honor you and to love you. In your name I pray. Amen. Oh, I have a little book here. I don't think you can get it now. Who Could Love an Ugly Toad? And it just is a book on children, or the toad, accepting himself and that he was very special. And I think that's an important thing to teach our kids. I mentioned that before. Okay, any questions or any thoughts or any ideas or whatever?
Over here.
Yes, I know her.
I know that you had 4 boys, and I was wondering about when you were growing up, how did you help them develop a good brotherly relationship with each other without forcing them to love each other? But how do you help them understand that importance of the relationship and foster that?
That's a good question. I don't think I've ever been asked that before. Leave it to you to ask me that. I have to tell you, our oldest boy, Steve, who is now with the Lord, he died at the age of 58, so from pancreatic cancer. But he was almost an ideal child. And he was 3.5 years older than the next boy that came along. And he appreciated his brothers. And so his brothers followed. I thought that my second son gave me the most trouble. He's a scientist, by the way. But then I just found out from my third son, Mark, who comes here and preaches once in a while, that he instigated Mike to cause all the trouble. So it was really Mark that was doing that. But, to just show them in your own way also. Respect each child, and even bring up each something special in each child, and let the brothers know that, or the sisters know that. Does that help? No, but that's okay. Okay, any other questions? Oh, yes.
Did you spend time individually and alone with each child?
That's another good question. We tried to, and the first one, because he was 3.5 years older, he had the most attention. And then I had Mike, and 10.5 months later, I had my third child. So those two were like twins, and I'm not sure what time I spent with them. I don't know how it happened. I know when we informed my father-in-law, this just came to my mind, that we were having the third one. He said, "Did anybody tell you where they come from or how you got them?" If they didn't, it was his fault. Yes?
I was just wondering, how did you and your husband, with kids coming along and ministry, how did you guys make sure that your marriage was priority among all the busyness?
Yeah, that's another good question. I think I tried never to remind the kids that they were preachers' kids. This is the first part of what you were saying, because they weren't any different than any other children. I don't think we ever said to them, you do this or do that because your dad's a pastor. And I think that was really, really important. As for my husband's relationship with me, I was a kind of a ornery person. If you've ever heard my testimony, I was kind of demanding, and I had to learn that I was to honor and respect him. I loved being a pastor's wife. I loved it. I hated when Richard died because I had to give that up. I felt like I not only lost my husband, but I lost my position, and nobody cared anymore. And I'm not saying that against them, but that's the way it happened. I mean, once Richard was dead, I may as well have been dead too. And even though that was hard, and I don't know where I was going with that, but anyway, I thoroughly enjoyed being a pastor's wife, and I think we tried to pass on. My husband and I had a good relationship, and part of that was because I enjoyed the role I had. I wanted to encourage him. I wanted to help him. And then when he got ill, he even said to me on his one of his days that he was dying, he said, I didn't know you could be so nice. Yes.
Two questions. Did you go on dates with him without the kids?
Yes, we did. We didn't do it often. What I had to do, because he was so busy at the church, and his life was, I mean, he loved being a pastor. What we did, I got tickets at Lamb's Players. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Lamb's Players. So at least 5 times a year we would go out. I think that's very important. I don't know how you can arrange it if you don't have money for babysitters. Maybe a mother or father or an in-law would take the kids. But just keep communication open, please. Love your husbands. Be good to him sexually. I didn't know I was going to say that, but that is very, very important. And I had no idea what a man was like. I had 3 sisters. My mother was afraid to say anything at all about men. And when I got married, I had no idea. And it was Richard that taught me how much. Now, maybe your husbands are different. 1 out of 10 women want sex more than the man. That's what my husband found out from counseling women. 1 out of 10 women, maybe less than that, really, want sex more than their husbands. Now, you all look so innocent out there. I wish I could get you to raise your hand. If you... No. Pardon me? You all have babies. Okay, so you know. But they want more than just have babies. They just enjoy your body. I don't know why. I don't. And you can blame it on God. Remember with Adam and Eve? Adam was drawn to Eve. And so that's just part of being married. So I would encourage you to love your husbands in that special way. How did we get off on that? What was that question?
The second question is, we have 3 boys that are teenagers, and you know how you said don't expect them to be perfect?
Uh-huh.
Well, I expect them to get all A's because they're super bright and they're very smart and they can do it. Is that bad? They do get straight A's, but if they get a B, I'm like, why do you have a B? So that shouldn't be the case.
Boy, that, again, I'm not sure I can even touch that. But, you know, I encourage you to ask your children what they would like from you as a mom or a dad, even as to the grades. You know, would you rather me not say anything about your grades, especially with teenagers, because they have good minds and they're a lot smarter than we think, and they see a lot more than we realize that they see. But even when they're little, start asking your kids for some answers to the questions that you have about them. Does that make sense, what I just said? Yeah, because it's so important. You know, remember that they're people. They're not just your children. They're people. They have minds. They have a heart. And they see lots of what's going on. So treat them as people. Treat them as your friends. There are times when they're not your friends, but treat them. Try to treat them as I think, as people. That might be the best way of saying it. Treat them with respect. Treat them with honor, just as you are to your husbands. But I think that's a good thing to remember, because they grow up, then you get old, like I'm getting old, then I have to listen to those kids. So I want them to have a good opinion of their mom as I get older, and I'm going to have to be taken care of, I think. I hope I die before that. But anyway, any other thoughts or questions? Oh, okay.
Have you ever felt annoyed by your kids, and what did you do in that situation?
Have I ever what?
Felt annoyed by your kids?
Been annoyed by my kids? Oh, no. You know, again,
Like really annoyed?
I guess it would depend. I'd almost have to have an illustration, because for some, yeah, that's right. I don't remember ever being extremely annoyed at them. I'm trying to think. When they banged up the car, no. Yeah. My kids never got involved with the wrong kinds of friends. We were very spoiled as parents. They were just easy to handle. Like I said, my second son was the hardest. He's, and now I find out it was a third son that was egging him on. But I'm sorry, I really can't answer that. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I've ever been asked that before, nor have I thought about it. Okay, anything else? Yes, Amy?
Kind of along with that. I feel like there's a lot of days or times where all I can do is just look forward to nap time or bedtime, or, it's always just surviving.
Mm-hmm.
How do you pull yourself out of that mentality to, wanting to take advantage of, I know I'm supposed to think, take advantage of the time you have with your kids to teach them and stuff, but I'm so tired all the time, so how do you get
She
out of
sounds normal, doesn't she? Yeah, there are times like that. And remember, it's been a long time since I've had 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds. But I mean, there were days I wanted to kill them, honestly. I mean, you forget these things that I'm trying to pass on to you. It will change. The problems of a 2-year-old then will become the problems of a 13-year-old or a 17-year-old. Maybe you could also pray that the kids, when they have kids, that their kids will be just like your kids were. No. Yeah, that's a good question. But the only thing I can say is you get over it. And what is, when you think about it, what is 16 years, maybe 10 years out of a life of that child that's going to live to be 50, 60, 70, and they will be a joy, I hope. Now, sometimes they're not. I mean, I know parents that have kids that are involved with drugs, and it's really, really difficult, or have had some real problems, and I'm not really equipped to answer those questions because we just didn't have it. And I think one of the main things that you have to do is live what you say you believe. Please don't live one way at home or tell the kids live one way and then you go out and live another way. Don't be a hypocrite. And I don't think any of you here would be anyway. I know you all do a good job. Does that helps any? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, really. To be around a 2-year-old, and your husbands don't understand that. They're not around the 2-year-olds all day long. Maybe somebody else can help answer some of those. Yes. Okay.
I was just gonna say, what did you do for your own self-care? You know, so I can kind of see what you're asking is,
Yeah.
say, like, how do I buoy myself up, or what is it that carried you through, so when there were those kind of frustrating times that,
Yeah,
okay,
that's another good question. You know, I'm thinking back now, and I don't think we even, self was not brought up that much. I think we're living in a different generation where you're taught your self, is that what it is, or whatever? It's brought to the forefront more than it was back when I was younger. And I hadn't even thought about that until just now. To be a wife and a mother, they were the two things that I wanted to be. In today's world, you women can do so much more than it was even offered to us. I mean, if you were a woman back when I was young, it was either be a school teacher, not to put the teachers down, or a nurse. But other than that, we didn't have all the tech stuff. We didn't have, I think of you all with your smartphones or whatever the kids carry around all the time. I don't even have a smartphone. I don't even have a carry phone. I mean, whatever you call them. I tried to call my husband once, and he wouldn't answer from heaven, so I thought, why even bother? But seriously, you're living in a different world, and you're going to have to turn to the Lord and ask for wisdom for some of these situations that I can't even imagine in today's world. Just remember, don't love your kids, though. Love your husband. Those things don't change. I hope that helps a little bit. Any other questions? Lynette must be here to tell me to be quiet. I remember when she was a little girl. That goes back, way, way back. Anything else?
What were some of your favorite memories of
Oh,
high school years?
that's a good question, too. I think I've shared a little bit of it. I think the times, my boys would say this, and I would agree, the times we sat around the table at supper time, dinner time, and they just talked, and they asked their dad questions, and we would just have family discussions, family times. And I think that's important, to have good meal times. I don't know how it is today, because I don't know whether you all meet together for one meal a day or not, because everybody's running to baseball and football and all the other stuff. At least that's what I'm told. But I would encourage you to have a time when you all sit around, maybe it's before they go to bed, and talk and share. Ask the kids what was their favorite part of today, and have them talk. And listen, don't comment negatively anyway, but encourage them to talk. Ask them questions. That's so important, because they do have minds, and many of them are brilliant. Even at the age of 2, 3, and 4, they're thinking. I have a great-grandson. He's 3.5, and in fact, I was going to bring this up. Let them wear whatever they want. His name is Stephen Parker, after his granddad and another granddad, and he won't wear anything but pajamas. That's it, pajamas. And Amy even lets him wear pajamas to church. Now, I'm not sure that I would have allowed that, but I admire Amy for letting her kid wear his pajamas. Maybe he has Sunday pajamas. I don't know. I should have asked Amy that. But see, those things don't really matter that much. Don't make an issue out of things that don't really matter. I think that's so, so important in bringing up kids. Anything else? Yes.
How do you teach independence? I have a 1.5, and he always wants to play with us, like me and my husband.
That's another good question. At 1.5.
I don't know if we're going to have another one.
Okay. You better have another one so you can teach the 1.5-year-old to go play with a baby or something. Yeah. But again, I think now that's where you could set limits maybe and say, well, Daddy and Mommy need 5 minutes. You don't have to be long. And you go play with your blocks. And then if he keeps coming over, no, this is Mommy and Daddy's time. You know, it is important to have Mommy and Daddy time. I don't think I mentioned this story, but when we first moved here, this is a little different than your question, but we were living in an apartment on Washington, and there were not locks on the door. And one Saturday morning, my husband and I were in bed making love. And Tim comes walking in, and he said, "What are you two doing?" My husband never said a word. He wouldn't say anything. I finally said, "Oh, we're making love." And Tim turned around and walked out. I recently asked him that. He's 53 now. So he said, "I don't remember that." But Mommy and Daddy do need time alone. And, just gradually, especially at 1.5, you can't give him much time alone. He could destroy the house. But, yeah. Again, the relationship with your husband is really very, very important. Anything else?
I have one more.
Okay.
What encouragement would you have for us all on the kind of information overload we get with, like, if you're feeding your kid this, it's horrible, or if your kid doesn't know this by 3, you're horrible. The internet gives us almost too much information these days.
Again, that's a hard one because we never had that. Well, in a way we did, but I think you just have to set limits. What do you do about cell phones as your kids are growing up and all the gadgets? Do you limit the gadgets? Can you say you can use this for an hour and a half a day and then no longer? To me, that would seem like a solution for some of that, but things are overloaded. And we only had, when my kids were young, we had Dr. Dobson and Spock. You don't even know, do any of you know who Spock is? Benjamin Spock? He wrote a book, and that was pretty much the only book we had on childcare then. Dr. Spock. No, not Star Trek. I'm trying to think, was his first, I'm sure I still have the Dr. Spock book at home. I think it was Benjamin. Look it up. You guys can look it up. You have all those things. You can look up anything on those phones, and they tell you whatever. But there was a Dr. Spock. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole different world, and in many ways I feel very unqualified to even encourage you. But I do think you have to set limits, and I've seen that with my grandchildren doing that, yeah. Oh. Anything else?
I have one more.
Okay.
How do you, I guess, kind of not really on what you were talking about, but how did you stay connected to your children, your boys, as they grew, like got older, maybe moved away?
Yeah, all of the boys did. And this was before, now you guys can get on the computer and you can talk to them, FaceTime or whatever. We would have to call the kids in Ethiopia. Steve was in Ethiopia, and it cost maybe $1.10 a minute. So we didn't do much of that. We kept in touch by airmail letters. You don't even know what they are, do you? They were sheets with airmail letters, and we would send them back and forth. We also did tapes. We had video then, so once in a while we would get a video. But, and they were all different. We had one in Ethiopia, one in Scotland, one in Lesotho, Kazakhstan, and let's see, where was Mike? I don't remember where Mike was. Oh, he just goes back and forth anyway. He's the scientist. I don't know where he was during those days. He was probably the closest. He was in Oklahoma City, but none of them were real close. But I liked it that way. And then I could spend more time doing what I wanted to do and being a wife. So, anything else? Anyway, this has been fun for me, even though I really feel inadequate. But I want to thank Tara for inviting me, and Andrea. Yeah. Okay, there she is, right down here. Yeah. Yeah. But thank you for inviting me, and please enjoy your husbands, appreciate them, respect them, and then enjoy your kids also. They're gifts from God. And I would encourage you to remember that. The husbands are too, by the way. Yeah. Okay, thank you.